the boy Mars Mirage. Salute, welcome, and just want to thank everybody out there in the Midnight Mirage. New people, old people, new viewers, old viewers. I see y'all out there. One love to all the people, and I'm very, very thankful to have you return once again. Today's tape is going to serve as the graduation tape of the Midnight Mirage. We went over a lot of the preludes. We went over a lot of the prerequisites. And we went over a lot of the preliminaries when it comes to a lot of these esoteric and occult themes dealing with the soul, okay? So today's tape is about the graduation of the soul, and it is also about the traveling that the soul must go on in order to initiate itself into new things, into new experiences, okay? So today's tape is about actually going into the higher degree or higher octave of who we really are. We are going into a new moon in September. And as I told you all on the previous tape, that in August, the new moon, it changed my life forever. My life will never be the same because of the new moon in August of 2018. And now the new moon of September 2018 is going to basically continue those functions that were introduced to me in August. You also got to remember that we are getting ready to go into the time of the harvest. So for all my farmers and people that deal with agriculture out there, you're going to start seeing certain crops and vegetables and fruits, etc., start to show themselves, okay? So not only are we in the time of harvest, but we are also in the time of revelation. Because whenever you graduate, you get to see the conclusion of whatever it is, whatever it is that the phenomenon had been in the process of becoming, you actually going to see this on graduation day. I also find this to be very interesting because this last week, as I've been doing meditative stuff, going deeper into my own soul, I've been seeing a lot of caterpillars on the street, and I've been seeing a lot of butterflies. Like I was swarmed by a lot of butterflies this week as I just walked around and stuff like that. And they were all the same color. They were these lime green or these light yellow butterflies that I kept seeing. And that's very, very powerful to me because I had a subconscious connection with the light yellow butterfly or the lime green butterfly back in 2012. And it was around the same time I was about to be initiated into something much deeper. I just didn't realize it. But now I'm actually conscious and aware of these patterns. I understand why certain symbols show up and when they show up in my life. And typically when I start seeing the yellow butterfly or the lime green butterfly, it means that I'm about to graduate and go into a higher ascension and initiate into a deeper level of my soul that I may have not experienced before, okay? So today's tape is to realize that it's much more things about ourselves that we haven't experienced. And we have to give ourselves room to grow, and we have to give ourselves experiences to actually come into these new qualities that we have within us that we may have not tapped into. All right. Also, I want to talk briefly about the tarot card known as the Fool card, or sometimes called the Wandering card. Okay, it's the 0 card on the tarot deck, and I also briefly want to talk about the 9th house of your astrological chart. Now, the reason why I want to talk about the 9th house is because that deals with wisdom, spiritual teachings, spiritual initiations, and it also deals with traveling, okay? And the Wanderer or the Fool card is also one who is a traveler, all right? So you got to remember that when you are being initiated, you also are doing a form of traveling. You are going from one location to another location. You may have been in the eastern hemisphere of your soul, but now you may travel to the western hemisphere of your soul. Even on the tree of life, the east is actually regarded to as Tiferet or the solar sphere or the number 6 on the tree of life. So that is regarded to as the east. And the west on the tree of life is known as Malkuth or the earth or the 10th sphere. So a lot of the times in the Masonic system, the initiate will say that I am traveling from the east to the west, which means that I'm going from the soul level of Tiferet down to the material plane of Malkuth to realize and graduate myself, okay? So real briefly, we're going to look at the Wandering card and understand more what I'm talking about. So right here we have the Wanderer card or the Fool card, okay? And it's, comes in different variations, but this one right here is very, very important. Now, I told you all that the 9th house in astrology deals with, of course, spiritual wisdom, initiations, and also traveling. And think about the Fool card or the Wanderer card, how he plays the role as a traveler. Now, right here you have this young boy who basically has no idea what's actually in the wilderness or has no idea what is in the west where he must travel for his soul's growth. But he steps out on a leap of faith to go into the wilderness and the unknown, okay? And he has the full potential to do so. So the Fool card and the ninth house in astrology to me are very, very connected. One, because the Fool card or the Zero card or the Void card or the No Thing card shows all potential, because the Most High is the no thing and the all thing. So whenever the Most High chooses to start revealing itself, it experiences a form of graduation, and it goes to experience a part of itself that it may have not really been cognizant of. So that is the same thing as the Fool card or the human being as we go to initiate ourselves. We think we're human beings and we think we know who we are until we go on the journey and actually see who we are. Okay. So that is the Fool card. And also note that the Fool is heading towards the wilderness. Okay. He's headed towards the wilderness. And I also want you to peep that there is a rainbow that actually is leading him across basically this gap of space between him and the wilderness. So that rainbow could also be just the spiritual intuitive powers of the left brain, okay, and the creative side of spirituality, because we don't have to know everything to actually go on a journey. Sometimes we just need to have enough information and carry enough with us so we can get to our destination, because a lot of times we don't need a lot of baggage. Whenever we get to our new destination, we will acquire new things there. So a lot of the times you will see the Fool or the wanderer go on a journey, but you won't see them take much. They may have just a little bag or two, but nevertheless, they don't take all their possessions. That's a very, very powerful thing. And let's look at another version of the card in a minute right here. So as I told you all, the Fool card and the Wanderer card, they're the same, but they have two different views. So on the other one, you saw that the Fool was actually headed into the wilderness, and was unknown exactly where the Fool was going. And you kind of have that same theme right here. You still have the all potential, or that part of the Most High that wants to create but has to learn itself, getting ready to go on a journey. And think about how this Fool is basically on the edge of a cliff, kind of wandering, going into the unknown. And also notice that the Fool's knapsack is the only thing he has. So he don't have a big book bag. He's not carrying all his luggage. He's not carrying everything from his home. He's basically taking whatever he needs to go on the journey, because that's all that is required of him. So this all deals with the ninth house, and it deals with the traveling Mason, the soul traveling from the east to the west, the soul traveling from Tiferet to Malkuth. Okay. This is what that card represents. All right. So what we're going to do right now is I want to read to you all a little bit about initiation, and we will analyze this as we go through. But as I told you all, the whole point of this tape is to realize that we need to go into the higher levels of man and woman and the higher levels of human being. And we need to graduate ourselves. Okay. We need to graduate ourselves, and we need to go into the wilderness of the unknown. So we will realize and reveal a part of ourselves that we may have not been too aware of. All right. So I'm coming off of gnosticteachings.org, dealing with the path of the initiation. And we're going to just read a lecture that is actually titled, "What is Initiation?" And as usual, we'll go through some of this stuff and analyze as we typically do. All right. To enter into initiation is to start the development of the abilities of powers or senses of the spirit or the soul related with the human being that we need to develop, that we need to have in order to have the right to enter the human kingdom. So the first thing we see is that entering into initiation is to start developing the abilities or powers or senses of the soul or the spirit. So just like the human body has its own senses, the soul and spirit has its own senses. And you have to actually acknowledge or reveal or graduate or awaken these hidden soul senses. So whenever you be an initiated, or whenever you have a certain type of situation that presents itself to you in life, and it gives you the opportunity to either ascend or descend, this is a form of initiation. Also, too, I want to give a shout out to Mother Mirage and Grandma Mirage, because these are two esoteric beings that helped Blackbeard in his initiation path, that helped Blackbeard in his continuation of generational pyramid building. Because my mother has always been that form of the Masonic traveler. She's always been that being, at least that I knew, that went on some type of unknown journey to bring back knowledge, wisdom, and resources to the family, you know. So I have to thank her for helping me get an understanding of the initiate at a very early age. And one thing she always told me is that I must always be preparing myself. I must always be training and working myself mentally, emotionally, and spiritually and physically. So whenever an opportunity shows up, I'll be able to receive the opportunity. Because she was real big on me understanding that success is nothing but the marriage of opportunity plus preparation. Let me repeat. One thing my mother was very, very big on in her training of the mind of Blackbeard from a kid, besides telling me that I was a genius every day from elementary, middle, and high school. My mother told me that I was a genius before I went to school every day of elementary, middle, and high school. There was never a day she missed that shit. But one thing she used to always tell me is that success or achieving or winning at anything requires you to be prepared, and it is the marriage of preparation and opportunity. So remember that in your graduation, that your soul will achieve when you have been preparing. And whenever the opportunity shows up, your preparation will actually be expressed and you will get the success. So always remember in life that you don't control the opportunity. Nature itself, or the universe, or the Most High itself, is actually what presents the opportunity. The only thing you can do is be prepared. So whatever it is that you're into, you can just be in a constant state of being prepared and preparing yourself to exhibit that skill or talent. Okay, so let's use this example. Let's take it to the football. We just had the football, and of course the Eagles and Falcons played the other day, and we already know what the fuck happened. I really don't even want to go into this shit right now. But so let's take you as the one that's being prepared as the running back. And let's take the opportunity being the offensive line, which is God or the universe. Think about how the offensive line actually tackles the defense, moves the defense, and shifts the defense around to create a gap or a space or a hole or an opportunity for the running back to then run through and go to the goal. So in other words, the offensive line creates the opportunity, and if the running back is prepared, they will run through and succeed, which is the touchdown. So the running back is not concerned with doing the offensive lineman's job. They're not concerned with trying to move people out the way. They're not concerned with, why is this not happening? Why is that not happening? The only thing they're concerned with is, practicing anything a running back needs to do and preparing on the running back skills so they can exhibit that when the time comes. So that's the same with you in life. If you are, let's say, a girl or a woman that does hair, okay? You've been saying you want to do your own business and all this different stuff, right? But you don't necessarily have the opportunity. So the only thing you can do is be working hard every day on hair, researching something new online about hair, trying to understand the human biology of the head, trying to understand different chemicals and how this stuff may, react on the hair, trying to understand the different hair archetypes of the different ethnicities of people on the planet. Because people's hair is different, and you may have clients that may be from different ethnicities. So as you're studying and preparing and practicing all this stuff, when the opportunity shows up, because there's a new beauty salon down the street and they hiring new people, now you can go in and actually exhibit your work that you've been preparing for. So when the opportunity presents itself, you can actually go through and turn up. But the store could show up down the street, and if you're not prepared, it won't really even matter. So that's almost like a running back. Like, the offensive line can create the hole or the gap, but if you've been eating a bunch of Burger King and McDonald's, you may not hit that hole as hard. So you may be getting tackled every time, or we noticed that throughout the season, you only averaging 3 to 5 yards a catch. But it could be much more had you been better prepared. All right. So when people say being prepared or practice, that's what leads to game time performances. You don't just get to the game and perform great. It's never like that. Like even when I play basketball, a lot of guys may see, man, they see that I'm very, very skilled and I'm talented at it, but they don't know how much I train at it. They don't know how much I may be working out, that I don't eat a lot of crazy stuff, that I'm constantly studying the game. I'm watching film. Every time I got a chance to get a ball in my hand, I got one. So that's the preparation. So when opportunity to come for me to play, of course I'm flying and jumping out of the gym because I've been preparing for it, Let's continue. We are not human beings. This is something that we have to comprehend in order to understand the meaning of initiation. People of this planet Earth believe themselves to be human beings, and that is a great mistake. And of course, this great mistake comes from ancient times, especially from the intellectuals, from those that believe themselves to be wise. The intellectuals are always trying to figure or find the origin of this humanity. They say the origin of man. But really, if we investigate in the complete sense of the word, this humanity, when we arrive at the conclusion that man does not exist on this planet, then why is everyone talking about man or human beings? Now, this is very important because, as I've told you all in the past, that a lot of us suppose ourselves to be human beings, but most of us are still caught in our lower self. Most of us are still caught in basically the impulsive, instinctual reactions and responses that our biology and physical body has. So the human being is something much different, and we will read the definition in a minute. But realize that the intellectual animal and the human being are two different things. As I've told you all in the past about the sexual act, the only thing that makes a dog different from, let's say, a male or a man or a boy is that when a man engages in a sexual act, he has higher cognitive functions to where his inner self can talk to him, and he will realize that he could use this force a certain kind of way. Whereas the dog or the animal, they just impulsive. They going off of what their body feels, but there is no real type of consciousness going on. So most of us may have 2 arms or 2 legs, but we think that that makes us human, whereas it doesn't. Let's continue. If we look in the dictionary or encyclopedia, we find the word man or human being. We see that it is a title given to anyone who thinks, who rationalizes, and who walks on 2 feet and has the appearance that we have. And according to the scientists, anyone who doesn't have the same features or figure that we have, physically speaking, is not a human being. And that is precisely the great mistake, thinking that a human being is just the shape that we have. If we investigate the sense of the meaning of the word, we have to understand that human being is the being united with the mind. Let me repeat. If we investigate the sense of the meaning of the word, that is the meaning of the word human being, we have to understand that human being is the being united with the mind. So let's read what this word human being means deeper. Hu, as in the word human, indicates the spirit. Let me repeat. Hu, as in the word human, indicates the spirit. So you know how you'll hear indigenous people of the planet say that we are actually human beings, okay? Because the word Hu indicates the spirit, all right? And another form of the spirit would be the natural cosmic biological element that the Most High or the cosmos gave the initiates of the planet Earth. And that's essentially what we call melanin, because all the original people of this planet have that rather. So that melanin that we have, or that sentient being inside of us that's no different than Marvel Comics Venom, but that hue or that venom or that spirit or that melanin is actually what, makes indigenous people indigenous people. The word man comes from manas, which means mind. So a lot of times when we say man, a lot of us get caught up in gender such as male, female. But the term man actually means manas, and manas means mind. So don't both males and females have a mind? And don't both males and females have the opportunity to access their mind if they're prepared? Of course they do. So when we say man, this includes both males and females, not just males, all right? So when the spirit or the hue dominates the mind, you find a human or human. Of course, in us, the mind code controls everything and the spirit is ignored. So in other words, this word human, okay, human meaning spirit and man meaning mind. So the word human essentially means spirit mind. So when the hue or the melanin or the spirit dominates the mind, you will find a human. Other than that, you have simply a mind controlling a vessel. And that's the same thing you have when you see ants, bugs, you know what I'm saying, horses or cats. But as far as a spirit or higher cognitive function, you may not necessarily see that there. So continue. So when the spirit, or excuse me, being implies someone who knows how to be, and that someone is our inner God, the being. We are not what we should be. We have to learn how to be the being. So let me repeat that. So in the term human being, we know that human spirit, we know that man means mind. So now let's look at the term being. Being implies someone who knows how to be, and that someone is our own inner God, the being. We are not what we should be. We have to learn how to be the being. So as I've said before, a lot of us think that we are our egos and our personalities and the reflection we see in the mirror. But that is just a reflection of your physical face. And if your physical face melts away, you won't have anything but a skull. And everybody on the planet's skull essentially is going to look somewhat the same. So what makes it different? It is the being that is inside that skull, or it is the spirit that is inside that mind that actually is the identity of the being. Okay? So right now you all are talking to Chaz, the personality, or Blackbeard, the personality. But the wisdom and this understanding and this different spiritual, mysterious side of myself, that is my own inner God, my own inner being. And it is not Chaz. Okay? It is something that is using Chaz, all right? So a human being is someone who is what they should be, a mind under the direction of the being. Let me repeat. So a human being is someone who is what they should be, a mind under the direction of the being. So a true human being is the mind under control of the spirit, because the spirit essentially is what the being is. So let me repeat this. So a human being is someone who is what they should be, a mind under the direction of the being. All right. So here is another question or another problem that the scientists of this time believe, that the mind is only a product of the brain, or that the mind is only an action of the gray matter that we have within our head, and that when we think any thought, it is because we are using the brain. Scientists say that even the consciousness is a part of evolution. But when they talk about evolution, they're talking about the evolution of physical matter. Therefore, they say the consciousness or the mind and even beliefs or anything related with the beyond is just the result of the evolution of the cells of the matter in this three-dimensional world. And if we sustain that the human being is not the physical body, but the physical body is just a vehicle, then we would contradict 100% of all the theories and knowledge that we have find in modern science. So that is precisely what we have to do and what we are doing to give a completely different frame to that term human being. So a lot of us think, that the mind is only located in our brain and that the gray matter is what produces the thoughts that we perceive in our mind. So we don't realize that when we say mind, not only am I talking about every element of your physical being, but I'm talking about every element that's not of your physical being as well. Because as it says here, that the physical body is nothing more than a vessel. So the real question is this: who are you outside of your physical body? All right. I'll give you a little example. Some of y'all may laugh, but it shows that Blackbeard has multiple sides. When I was a teenager, the first job I had was at Chuck E. Cheese, okay? At Chuck E. Cheese, a little party place for kids. And every now and then, sometimes I would put the suit on and I would run the whole parties, because I had the greatest spirit and the kids could interact with me the best, all right? So whenever I would go in the back and put the costume on, when I would come out as Chuck E. Cheese, I got the little mouth suit on and everybody see him waving. But there is a being that actually is using that suit. And when I go and take the suit off, that suit no longer has a life. So that being actually was me that was making that suit come alive. And your physical body works the same. So you have to ask yourself this question. When you remove yourself from your physical body, just like how I got out of the Chuck E. Cheese suit, who is still there? What being is inhabiting or using that suit. Okay? Think about that. So we're talking about your spirit and your being. We're talking about the true you, you know. A real human being is the microcosmos because this creature contains within himself all of the universe. All of the universe is reflected in him. Nothing is hidden for him. When I am using the word him, it is necessary to understand that I am not implying it as a title to this creature. But he is not male or masculine. He is a creature who has the two polarities. Since he is the microcosmos, he has within himself the two polarities, male, female. So this creature called human being or man is male, female at the same time. Let me repeat. So this creature called human being or man is male, female at the same time. Remember I told y'all that? And being the microcosmos, he is a cosmos in the small. If we investigate inside of him, we will find everything that we find outside in the universe. So if we want to find, for instance, God within the human being, we will find God within him. If we want to find the infinite, the firmament within this human being, the firmament will be in the human being. We will also find the galaxies, the very Milky Way will be within him, in the microcosmos. All the creatures and beings which are within this firmament are within him. Of course, we ought to understand that we are talking here about archetypes. We have to understand it because it is not like, for instance, if we want to find a tree within the human being, we will find a tree within him. But that which is related to the tree, all the mysteries, knowledge, and wisdom will be within him. This is how we have to understand when we say that the universe is reflected, as we say the word reflected within him. And because the universe is reflected within him, everything is related to him. He understands everything. Let's go from this from top to bottom. First, it says that the real human being or the real spirit mind is the microcosmos because this creature contains everything within itself and the universe is reflected within him. Okay, so I've told you all that before. Now, as it says right here, if you want to go find a tree or a bush, you're not going to find that inside of a human being. But the elemental cosmic principles that create that, whereas it physically will manifest on Malkuth, you do find that was within the human being or man. If you want to find the planet Jupiter or the planet Mars or the planet Saturn, some of you all may be expecting this giant gas ball, but that doesn't exist within man in that way. But the fundamental elements and the archetypal principles and the archetypal energies of those celestial bodies do reside within man. So man is the microcosmos, okay? Or the universe in a small version. And when they say the firmament is actually the top of your body. Oh, so in other words, you know how your head is kind of, in other words, you know how from your shoulder over your head to your other shoulder is almost like an arch. You know how you have the arch in St. Louis. Like in St. Louis, they have the St. Louis arch. Or just like McDonald's, they have the McDonald's arch. Well, that arch is actually the arch from one shoulder over your head to your other shoulder, and it creates an arch. And that, my friend, is the firmament. So when it says that that God is within the human being, and if we want to find the infinite, the firmament within this human being, that the firmament will be in the human being. Okay. Also the Milky Way galaxies, etc. So in other words, there is everything you need inside of you already. And you have access to that. And you already understand everything. And for all the women out there, as it says that when we are using the word him, we're not necessarily talking about gender. Because the microcosmos is both male, female. And that the human being or man is male, female at the same time. Okay? Male, female at the same time. So let's move on. So now listen up to this part right here. To us, the concept of having the whole universe reflected within is something really amazing, something very grandiose. That's why in Genesis it is written that when God made man or the human being, he made him male, female, according to his own image or reflection. In other words, in his own likeness. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth among the earth, upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created him, male and female created he them. Genesis 1:26-27. All right. The human being, or this type of creature that we are talking about, existed on the earth in the ancient times before the beginning of this root race, and even before the beginning of the previous root race, which was Atlantis. Further back, we arrive at the continent of Mu or Lemuria, and precisely in Lemuria is where we find the human being, the creature or the microcosmos, three-dimensional microcosmos, who had everything inside. If we investigate the other races that were before Lemuria, like the Hyperboreans and the protoplasmic races, we find that they were not physical or three-dimensional races as the Lemurians, Atlanteans, and we are. The protoplasmic race and the Hyperborean race were situated in the supra dimensions of nature, even though they were also human beings in the complete sense of the word. God was within them. The whole universe was within them. That is why it is written that they were living in paradise. Now, this last part, I won't go too deep because I have a book that I'm writing that will unleash this entire ancient history. So I can't give it all to y'all right now, but we'll briefly go over it. To close this out, I told you all in the previous tape about how Atlantis and Lemuria are the parents of America, and that the indigenous people of America are the sons and daughters of the Atlanteans and the Lemurians, okay? But the Atlanteans and the Lemurians are actually a more evolved race than we are. And the Hyperboreans and the protoplasmic races that are the ancestors of the Atlanteans and Lemurians are more advanced than they are. So in other words, when the first human being manifested on this planet, it was not physical and it was not three-dimensional. And it existed within the super dimensions of nature. But as time went on, and after the fall, you start having these three-dimensional physical bodies being created. So in Genesis, when it says that Adam and Eve, or male, female, were living in paradise, this is in the times of Hyperborea, the protoplasmic races, and the early stages of Lemuria. So yes, we may be these copper-colored flesh beings today, but we always didn't look like that. And I talk about that in my first book that I wrote. And salute to everybody out there that purchased that first book, because I received some little money from it and stuff. So salute and shout out to y'all, man. That's some real shit. But that I talk about in there how the Atlanteans were this, mysterious people, basically. Okay. So the point is that we need to go into our higher self, deeper cognitive functions, and travel from the east to the west of the soul, and realize that here in the Mirage universe, that's the point. Blackbeard himself is about to go on a form of a journey. So y'all stay tuned and stay looking out for me as we travel from the east to the west. And next time you see me and talk to me, I will be in a position of living in the west, living in my true self, living in the world of Malkuth as a spiritual human being. All right. So salute, one love to the people. And I appreciate and thank y'all for all the support. I'm out.